Please click on the subscribe button so you get notified when the latest content drops. Now, let's kick it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the NFL playoff picture and how I think things are going to play out. In the AFC, I think it's pretty much set. You got the Kansas City Chiefs, who I think if they get one more victory, who I think they're going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're going to end up being the number one seed and have home field advantage and have the bye week 1, which is crucial for Patrick Mahomes. The Buffalo Bills are going to ultimately face the Denver Broncos. I think all the Denver Broncos and the Chargers have to do is win one more game to clinch, I believe, a playoff spot. The Chargers' last two games are the Patriots and the Raiders. If Justin Herbert cannot get one win against one of those two teams, they wasted their money on him realistically. So with Jim Harbaugh, you can guarantee the Chargers are making the playoffs. The Broncos' last two games, ladies and gentlemen, they are facing the Bengals and the Chiefs. Now, they had the Chiefs beat in their matchup. And if they beat the Bengals straight up this weekend, they clinch their playoff spot. They don't got to worry about the Bengals. If the Bengals win, then they got to beat the Chiefs. And the Chiefs might be playing their players. Hopefully, if they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, they'll be resting, and you never know. But you got to beat the Bengals. And I genuinely believe, because the defense for the Denver Broncos has been top tier, has been elite, and the Bengals defense has struggled horribly this year, ladies and gentlemen, under Lou Anarumo. Even though their offense has been stellar, I still think Bo Nix is going to be able to pick apart the Bengals defense, and I think the Denver Broncos are going to ultimately seal up their playoff spot against the Cincinnati Bengals in this head-to-head matchup this weekend. So that's why I think the playoff picture for the AFC is completely set. I'm sorry to the Miami Dolphins. I'm sorry, Cincinnati. Get yourself a better defensive coordinator if you're going to keep Zach Taylor, or if Zach Taylor's the problem, fire him and then try to go get Bill. Because Bill Belichick with Joe Burrow, guarantee you a fucking Super Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. But we're not talking about that. So, in the AFC, I think the wild card weekend is going to play out like this. The Bills are going to face the Denver Broncos, and even though the Denver Broncos defense has been great, Bills is going to blow them out. I think Buffalo with Josh Allen, with the way their defense plays, if they are healthy, and I'm assuming the Buffalo Bills defense will be healthy by the time the playoff starts. Blowout against the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix and Sean Payton, with all due respect. Then I got the Steelers against the Chargers, and I think Mike Tomlin gets the monkey off his back. He hasn't been able to win a playoff game in God knows how long. So, because the lack of talent on the offensive side of the ball for the Chargers, even though they got Justin Herbert, J.K. Dobbins is out, they don't really have a lot of good wide receivers out there. I know Quentin Johnson, he's still developing, and they're relying on Ladd McConkey. But because J.K. Dobbins is out, they are just too talent deficient to really compete with the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my personal opinion. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, especially the Russell Wilson and George Pickens connection, is going to pick apart the Los Angeles Chargers, in my personal opinion. So I'm taking in that game, I'm taking the Steelers to beat the Chargers, and then I'm taking the Ravens to beat the Houston Texans, who, again, CJ Stroud, he doesn't have Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell is done for the season. All he has is Nico Collins out there right now. And Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon, he's an elite running back. He's a top, in my personal opinion, he's a top 5, if not top 5, top 10 running back in the league. He's still got some gas in the tank, but I just think because they have a deficiency of weapons, and even though the Ravens defense hasn't been as good as they've been in the past, I think the Ravens defense, especially with the Lamar Jackson, with Derrick Henry, with the way that they're playing, with Mark Andrews, with Likely, just too much for the Houston Texans to overcome, in my personal opinion. So in that game, I'm taking Baltimore over Houston. And then in the divisional round, I am taking the Buffalo Bills to ultimately beat the Pittsburgh Steelers handedly. Again, Josh Allen, in my personal opinion, the way he's played this season, lights out. The way that his team has played have come together. I just think it's going to be too much for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, even though they have Russell Wilson and that George Pickens connection and a great defense, Josh Allen just elevates the entire offense and is just leaps and bounds better. And the Bills, in my personal opinion, they're the second best team in the AFC. Then we got the Chiefs beating the Baltimore Ravens. I know the first game that they had, the first matchup that they had, it was a very close game where it came down to a toenail being on the line out of bounds. I don't care. We saw what the Kansas City Chiefs with an injured Patrick Mahomes just did to the Houston Texans, ladies and gentlemen. They're getting close to the playoffs. Technically, the playoffs have already started for the Chiefs because they need to win these games to get a bye week so Patrick Mahomes can get healthy. And now they're playing Kansas City Chiefs football, and I think they're going to continue playing this way until the playoffs start. They're going to get into the rhythm, and they're going to get into their real playbook. They're done with the experimental shit. Now it's real Kansas City football where, Patrick Mahomes, who has that Tom Brady aura, takes over. So I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs to whoop Lamar Jackson's ass again in the playoffs and make it to the AFC Championship game. With all due respect to Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, who, again, Lamar is elite, Lamar is amazing, Lamar is a 2-time MVP. He gets all of the respect that he deserves. It's Patty Mahomes, ladies and gentlemen. It's Patty motherfucking Mahomes. And then I think the winner of the AFC Championship game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills ultimately goes on to win the Super Bowl. I think the AFC is, at least at the top two guys, different tier, different talent. And I take back what I said earlier this season where I thought Josh Allen wasn't a top 5 quarterback. This year, he's proved me wrong, especially with the lack of talent that he's had on the offensive side of the ball. Elite, top 2 quarterback in the league, in my personal opinion. No offense to Lamar Jackson, who's the reigning MVP right now, but that's why I'm taking the whoever wins, and I'm not making my prediction right now. I need to see how things play out heading into the playoffs for me to make a solid prediction on who I'm taking between the Chiefs and the Bills. But I just know that whoever wins that game is winning the Super Bowl this year. Now let's move over to the NFC side.
Have you ever thought about ways to make more money outside of your 9 to 5? Well, in my industry, we'll teach you how to protect families financially while growing your own business. It's flexible, simple, and you don't need any prior experience. Contact me if you want more info.
Guys, join me, Alex the Man Angelov, and check out A&A Radio, where we're going to be talking about the latest and greatest financial news, investments, banking, and personal finance. Check out the channel, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
All right, so on the NFC side, ladies and gentlemen, we got Detroit at the 1 seed at 13-2, Philadelphia in the 2nd seed at 12-3. Los Angeles Rams, who are going to ultimately win the division and be the 3 seed. Atlanta Falcons right now as the 4 seed, and I think they actually bow out and lose, and Tampa takes the 4th seed and wins that division. Then we got Minnesota at the 5 seed at 13-2, Green Bay at 11-4 in the 6th seed, and then Washington Commanders in the 7th seed at 10-5. Realistically, the only change that I really see happening is Atlanta and Tampa switching, and I think Tampa ultimately wins that division. I think it is asking too much of a young Michael Penix Jr., a rookie who is going to get his second start, to realistically go out there and beat the Washington Commanders this week, who are still alive for the division and ultimately the 2nd seed in the NFC if the Eagles lose out. And realistically, I think the Eagles missed their opportunity to be in contention for the 1 seed. I think either Detroit or Minnesota end up being the 1 seed, and I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota, with Kevin O'Connell, the way that Sam Darnold has played, dude, the Vikings remind me so much of my San Francisco fucking 49ers. I'm not joking. They say he doesn't have a good run game. He's got Aaron Jones back there. Aaron Jones ain't no fucking scrub. He's got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. I forget the other guy's name, but he's got guys out there, guys. He like Sam Darnold ain't playing with no scrubs. And I hate to say it, I think Sam Darnold should stay in Minnesota to just continue playing with the guys that he's playing, because Sam Darnold, like my guy Brock, needs good talent around him to make him a viable and good quarterback. And yes, he can help with development, but it also comes down to the head coach. And there's not a lot of good head coaches out there in the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. And Kevin O'Connell is an excellent head coach, in my personal opinion. So I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota wins out and beats Detroit for the 1 seed. I think Philadelphia is locked in at the 2. I think the Rams win the division. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers end up getting the 4 seed and winning their division because they got the Saints and the Panthers to end their season. And I think I believe in Baker Mayfield, even though he's had to deal with a lot of wide receiver injuries. He's actually been able to elevate his wide receiver talent, in my personal opinion, and they've looked good. I think Baker's going to win out and make the playoffs, in my personal opinion. Then you got Minnesota, Green Bay, and the Washington Commanders. Now, for all intents and purposes, we're going to just say Detroit's the 1 seed and Minnesota ends up being the 5 seed, okay? But the way I see this playing out, Philadelphia, when it comes to facing the Commanders, and if they are healthy, they should beat the Commanders handily. There is no reason why, with a healthy Jalen Hurts, with the healthy Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith, the Commanders beat the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Field. There's no way. I'm sorry. I know that it just happened because the defense for the Eagles didn't fucking show up, even though their offense still managed to put up 30 fucking points with Kenny Pickett. I don't think there's a realistic way that they are going to be able to beat them a second time in Philadelphia. Now, if it does happen, they need to fucking fire Nick Sirianni, because that's back-to-back years where you're out in the first round and it's a disaster to end your season, because that classifies as a disaster. Yes, you had a dominant season. Yes, you made the playoffs, but it would be a disaster if you are out against the Commanders in the first round with all your guys. So I think Philadelphia wins that first game. I think Green Bay beats the Los Angeles Rams, just out of the fact that I think right now Jordan Love is, in my personal opinion, a much better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. I think the defense for the Packers is good. I like the offensive talent that they have on the Packers. I love Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed is my fucking guy. Kraft is a great tight end. And then you still got Josh Jacobs back there. So I'm taking the Packers over the Rams, who have an aging Matthew Stafford, who is injury prone who is injury prone. Throughout his career, he's been injury prone. He is a Super Bowl champion, not trying to disrespect him. And I know they swept my Niners, not trying to talk shit, but Kenyon Mitchell or Kenyon Williams, the running back, he's okay. I like Josh Jacobs a lot more. And I know they got Puka and they got Cooper, but again, Jaden Reed, deep threat over the top. You got Christian Watson, you got Wicks, you got Dobbs. You got a lot more receivers and a lot more receiver talent, a lot more depth on the Packers side of the ball. So I'm taking the Packers over the Rams in SoFi Stadium, especially because I think it's going to be like a 50-50 Packer-Rams, because I don't think they have a real home field advantage. And then I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or Yeah, I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, if Detroit ends up being the 5 seed and then Tampa Bay has to face Detroit, who they've already faced and beaten this year. So, yeah, Detroit needs to win out. Detroit needs to hold on to that 1 seed for dear life because they don't want to face a team that's already beaten them. Granted, they were actually Tampa Bay was a lot healthier at that point. Yeah, actually, never mind. No, it won't matter. It won't matter if they face Detroit. It won't matter if they face Minnesota. Tampa Bay is losing in the first round. I just think there's just too many injuries. Injuries are going to catch up to them, and realistically, that defense can be had. I know Todd Bowles is a defensive-minded coordinator or a defensive-minded head coach, but it's been had a little bit way too much, in my personal opinion, this season, and I think they lose in the first round to either Minnesota or Detroit. Now, in the second round, you would have the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Green Bay Packers in a rematch from Week 1 in Rio. And oof. I'm tempted. I'm tempted to take the Packers. Go Pack, go. Go Pack, go. And I was very adamant. I was hesitant on Jordan Love. I know. If you go back, you watch some of my older stuff, I was very hesitant on Jordan Love. But realistically, Jordan Love has come into his own. He's been playing phenomenal football. And again, as long as they can feed the ball to Jaden Reed, because when Jaden Reed does not have an impact on the game, the Packers tend to lose those games. But if you feed the ball to Jaden Reed, if you feed the ball to Josh Jacobs, if you feed the ball to Tucker Kraft, you're going to win that game. And I think in game 2, I think the Packers ultimately beat the Philadelphia Eagles, even if it's in Philadelphia for real this time. Go Pack, go over the Philadelphia Eagles in the divisional round. And then I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings versus Detroit. Yeah, taking Minnesota. Minnesota is my San Francisco 49ers this year. Again, I'm not envious of Sam Darnold's success. I don't wish he was my quarterback at all. But the way Kevin O'Connell is running that system over in Minnesota, the way Sam Darnold is playing with the talent around him, taking Minnesota against Detroit, especially because I think they're just too injury depleted, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You're in shootouts constantly. I know they just beat the Chicago Bears handily, but they're just in way too many shootouts, way too often. And I think Minnesota's defense is going to be able to hold Jared Goff. I know they faced him, and I think they beat him handily. But Brian Flores ain't no scrub, and I think the second time around, Minnesota's going to be prepared and be even more ready and more hungry to beat the Detroit Lions, and that's why I'm taking Minnesota. And I ultimately have the Minnesota Vikings versus the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game. In that game, I think the Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love ultimately win. Actually, you know what? I believe in miracles. Give me a Minnesota fucking miracle, ladies and gentlemen. Give me a Minnesota fucking miracle. I'm taking Sam Darnold. I'm taking the Vikings. They're making the Super Bowl. They're deep. Like I know what I said earlier, and I know Jordan Love is an elite quarterback. He's elite. He's top 10. I'll give Jordan Love his top 10 respect. He's definitely earned it this season. With that being said, you don't got to be a top 10 quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl, especially if you got top 10 talent around you. And Addison and Jefferson, they're top 10 talent. They're top 10 receivers in this league. Aaron Jones, if he's not a top 10 running back, then I don't know what the fuck he is. And then who's their tight end? TJ Hawkinson? I think Hawkinson's their tight end, right? If he's not top 10, he's still top 15 or top 12. Don't tell me he ain't. He's got a lot of top tier talent over there. And yes, Jordan Love is a top tier quarterback, top 10 quarterback, but realistically, I only think Jaden Reed is close to the top 10. None of his receivers are near that. Like, Jaden Reed is the only one who I genuinely believe is closer to the top 10. But I still think he's around the 15th or 14th, maybe 16th guy in the league. Josh Jacobs, he's definitely a top 10 running back. Jordan Love, top 10. But Minnesota just got too much talent. And Brian Flores is going to scheme up that defense, guys. He's going to, and it'll be Minnesota versus the winner of the Bills versus the Chiefs. And whoever wins Buffalo versus Buffalo Chiefs is going to ultimately win the Super Bowl against Minnesota. And that's how I think the playoffs are going to go. Now, if it does end up going like that, you can best believe I'm going to be replaying this fucking clip. And you guys can give me all the credibility in the fucking world because I am a fortune teller.
If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area and want the best cut of your life, go check out Headspins Barbershop located in South San Francisco, the official barbershop of N1 from the End Zone. Guys, have you heard? Shady Mob Productions is an official affiliate of HBO Max. Click on the link in the description and sign up so you can watch hit series like Hard Knocks, Game of Thrones, and House of Dragons. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.